You have done nothing. God is the ultimate everything, and it is even God's wisdom that has brought you out of your own darkness. As long as you think that you have done something, you've gone back to square one again. I like to think of the example of a game of snakes and ladders. And you roll the dice and you're moving along, and sometimes even if you go almost towards the end, there's one huge snake that takes you all the way back down to the beginning again. And that huge snake is your ego.
The challenge, Satpal, is not to think of ourselves being the Atma, but seeing everybody being the Atma. Because like the Guru wisdom teaches us, if we see every individual as Atma, then we see them as Paramatma. We can see God in all, we can serve God in all, we can love God in all. Religion is a kindergarten. You need to go beyond whatever religion you have to a university called spirituality. Greetings, my dear friends, and namaskar to Satpal Singh, the very, very loving, awakened, spiritual leader. I was a fan of dear Shri Satpal when I heard one statement. Satpalji, I must fold my hands in namaskar and tell you this. I fell in love with you. I fell in love with you when you said, Guru Nanak ji did not believe in God. Guru Nanak ji knew God. And it was, I don't know how many years back I heard this. I awakened in 2014, but I just fell so much deeply in love with the way you spoke. And it was, for me, it was a moment of honor to get this opportunity of talking to you, to have this conversation with you, because very few people in this world, probably I could count on my fingertips, that I could bow down to in that manner where they realize themselves to be none other than the Guru, none other than a manifestation of God. So I welcome you to this podcast. We'll keep it very informal, and I would love to hear your opening words, but I will quickly introduce you to the audience, those who have not had the great fortune of watching any of the videos. Satpal Singh, as he's called, was a lecturer in Gurmat spiritual philosophy. That, I believe, was his humble beginning. He has become a master, in my words, a master in non-duality. He is an expert in mindfulness practices. Right in 2012, he founded Nanak Naam. It started as a YouTube channel, now a registered charity in the UK. But he is an amazing person. And I don't have words. Sometimes I fall short. If you look at many of my podcasts, you won't find me struggling. I have so many podcasts to find the right words. Such an amazing person. Satpal, with folded hands, I greet you. I welcome you to this conversation. A few words from you and then we will roll.
Thank you so much for welcoming me. That's far too kind, all the words that you used for me. I don't see myself as a spiritual master or a guide or a guru in any way, but anything that I have learned, if the world can benefit from that, then what more can we ask for? So thank you for having me on here, and thank you for all the work that you do as well to help awaken people and enlighten people as well. So it's a real pleasure to be here.
No, it's so good. You know something, I would like to start by saying this, that sometimes it is not for you or me to say we are a guru. We are not a guru. It's very humble on your part. I'm humbled when you say that, and we must be humble. A guru, according to me, is only when a disciple can move from go to ro. If somebody could hear you, Satpal, and if your voice can take that person from darkness to light, from go to ro, you automatically become a guru. You don't need to raise your hand. Some people pride themselves of being Maha Guru and this Guru and that Guru. You and me know very well. We are nothing. That is why I am so privileged to have this conversation with you. Because only when we know Neti Neti, we become Tat Twam Asi. Unless we realize we are nothing, we cannot become that everything that we truly are. And so
Thank you so
today
much.
I am excited. I am happy we both are on the same page. But let us start. Today I want to learn from you many things that you believe in. I would like to cover some questions on God and also the Mool Mantra in which you are an expert. Let it flow in the way you like. Would you like to address, because as I said, my favorite word was Guru Nanak ji never believed in God. Guru Nanak ji knew God, which knew God in the sense it's beyond knowing. He realized God. He could feel God's presence. For him, God was omnipresent. God was everywhere. I understand it after my awakening. I was ignorant for 48 years. And then I awakened. I opened my eyes to realize the truth. So whichever way you would like, I'd like to touch the topic of the Mool Mantra and of God. And it's a conversation, so we will interact with each other.
Thank you so much. I just want to pick up on the point that you made about the Guru and how enlightening somebody else, taking them from darkness to light, makes you the Guru, makes you the person who brings that forward. Let me share with you what Guru Gobind Singh Ji defines as the Guru. He actually does the same message as Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So for those who are not familiar, Guru Gobind Singh Ji is the 10th master in Guru Nanak's tradition. In the tradition of the Sikhs, the foundation came from Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and then he passed it on from one to another. But interestingly, all the Gurus never referred to themselves as the master. And this is going back to what you mentioned about the Mool Mantra. Guru Nanak Dev Ji's focus has always been to focus the attention on oneness, on the ultimate divine. Guru Gobind Singh Ji does the same thing. And he says something very beautiful about the definition of Guru. He says, Ad Ant Eke Avtara, Soi Guru Samjio Hamara. That one divine being that has been there since the beginning of time, Ad Ant Eke Avtara, that being that has become one, that is the ultimate oneness of all time, Soi Guru Samjio Hamara. Understand that is the ultimate Guru. So the oneness itself is the thing that we are aiming towards. But the oneness itself is the one that is pulling us back towards it. So the oneness is the Guru. I like to think of it that if 100 people read a book and they talk about that book, they are not the master of that. The wisdom contained within that book itself is the master. So that's why I go back to the point that even Guru Nanak Dev Ji doesn't refer to himself as the Guru. He refers to the ultimate wisdom as the Guru. The wisdom is the thing that we must all strive towards. So I think that's what he's doing even in the Mool Mantra. He starts with this beautiful word, Ik Onkar, that there is only oneness. The entire thing that you see around you is not multiple things. There is only one divine entity everywhere, and you yourself are a part of that divine entity. And so that is the opening statement of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. That is his opening statement towards realization and spirituality.
So beautiful. And isn't that exactly what the Upanishads also talk of when they say Neti Neti Tat Twam Asi? In fact, it goes on to the Mahavakyas. It says, I am Atman Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma. And then it says, Aham Brahmasmi. But Satpal, the problem as we talk to people, the moment people say, Aham Brahmasmi, so the translation is, I am God. And then the ego starts to misunderstand the statement. When, for us to understand Aham Brahmasmi, which is Ek Onkar, I believe it doesn't mean, it's not very different in essence, unless we understand Neti Neti. I am not this body. This body will die. Satpal, as a name, Satpal will come and Satpal will go. But you, the divine being, when I look into your eyes, the life force, what is the power inside you, is that power of that wisdom which you talked about. What people just say, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient. We use these terms, but to understand it in reality is profound, right? And so therefore, I would like to understand a little bit more of the Mool Mantra as we go along. The word Ek Omkar itself is so profound, but people can't digest it. Because there is the ego that separates you and me for the world. And that's why today there is a war in Russia and Ukraine and Gaza. If we all realize we are part of that Ek Onkar, if only we realize that we are all the oneness, what we refer to as non-duality, but knowledge of that oneness is not realization. You may speak to hundreds of people, you may explain it so simply for them to understand. So what stops people from understanding the truth or realizing the truth of Ek Onkar?
If you look at the Mool Mantra, it starts by talking about oneness and the various facets of oneness. The oneness is Onkar, which means that it is this unfolding, ever-present life energy. It is ultimate truth. It is the one that is doing everything. It is the reason that you're alive. It is the life force within you. It's all of these things. But the end of the Mool Mantra is something very interesting. And to answer your question, why do people struggle to know this oneness? It says, Gur Prasad. That without the blessing of this wisdom, without the oneness blessing you, if it's not in your destiny to even know this, you can try whatever you want. It will not happen for you. What I love about this teaching is that as you mentioned this very important concept of ego, you cannot know God without understanding your ego. But there is always room for ego when you think that I have become enlightened. I have gone on a journey. I have learned so much wisdom. I have awakened. So as long as you put the energy towards you, the focus on you, that you yourself have achieved something, there's still the ego left. And as long as you say, I have become one with God, you haven't destroyed your ego totally. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji addresses this problem by saying, you have done nothing. God is the ultimate everything. And it is even God's wisdom that has brought you out of your own darkness. So as long as you think that you have done something, you've gone back to square one again. I like to think of the example of a game of snakes and ladders. When we were children, we used to play this game. You roll the dice and you're moving along. And sometimes even if you go almost towards the end, there's one huge snake that takes you all the way back down to the beginning again. And that huge snake is your ego. And so almost like a game of snakes and ladders, you always have to be aware that yes, you may climb further and further, but there's always going to be things that can bring you back. And that's your ego, your desires, your greed, your self-importance, your frustrations and anger. All these things, they bring you back down again. So the Guru's solution to that is surrender everything. Neti Neti should also be this. Nothing is me. This is not me. I have not to become enlightened. God is enlightened. If I'm seeking my enlightenment, that I still want to keep a little bit of my ego behind. So the Guru is saying, ultimate enlightenment is get rid of your desire for enlightenment, your desire for everything. Make yourself completely unimportant. Put all of your attention on that divine. Once you begin to do that, that's where your life becomes a devotion, a bhakti towards that divine. It is not about you. It's not about your enlightenment. It is all about that oneness. Put 100% of your attention on that divine oneness.
So beautiful, very, very beautiful. Satpal, I completely agree with you. And I'm going to ask you two questions from what you spoke just now. People would be confused a little bit in the word Gur Prasad. Now, are we talking of the Prasad as Kripa, of what people understand as Prabhu or Bhagwan? Or are we talking about the Guru, who we surrender to as a living manifestation of the divine? So I want you to quickly clarify this when you talk of Guru Prasad, or is it both? Is it, because in my learning, we need both the guidance of the living master and the grace of that Ek Onkar, the one who is omnipresent, who is nameless and formless. So can you clarify this point? And I have another point on the ego.
The beautiful thing about learning this tradition from the lens of oneness means that you catch yourself whenever you make distinctions. So in order for someone to be a guru, the only way that they can be a guru is there is 0% of their ego left. Then oneness is both non-manifest and manifest. The person that you are calling a guru, if they really are an enlightened master, then they are God. There is no distinction between them and God. So it is not that you need God and you need a guru, because then you've created duality again.
Okay.
God is the guru, guru is God. And once you see it in that way, you start to catch yourself from making these distinctions. Non-duality is a beautiful tradition where you always have to catch yourself.
So beautiful is, so only when somebody explains it like this, then it reflects their awareness of non-duality. Because sometimes, words can play. Just a few words can trick you. But quickly, Guru Prasad. Can you just give me a few words on Guru Prasad?
So going back to your question, is it God's grace or is it the Guru's grace? Prasad means that it is the ultimate grace that you have been allowed to know this wisdom.
Okay. And it flows,
you have
obviously,
been allowed to understand from this wisdom. Yeah. Yes.
And it obviously flows from the divine through the Guru to you, because don't you agree that to get this wisdom, the need of an enlightened master, the need of a guru, the need of a guide is profoundly very paramount, because in one lifetime, to overcome avidya, to overcome ignorance on your own, do you think is okay, or we definitely need the help of a guru?
You definitely need the help of as many gurus as you can expose yourself to.
Okay.
Because you will find that in different phases of your life, your understanding will change.
Yeah.
But as long as you don't attach yourself to one individual so that all of your hopes and desires are on that one individual. There is a beautiful phrase and teaching from Guru, which is Pullan andar sabko, apul Guru kartar. Everybody can make mistakes, but the word Guru kartar comes here. The Guru God can never make a mistake. So let us not focus on any individual. Let us recognize that individuals and people can have the ability to misguide you and guide you at the same time, which is why I'm bringing the attention that as much as it's important to have people in our life that can explain it to us using everyday examples, day-to-day analogies that make sense in our life, that can take that ancient wisdom and put it into modern terminology, ultimately we must not attach ourselves to any one individual because we're trying to rise above everything. Let us not get stuck at any layer. This wisdom is teaching you all the time, don't get attached to the world, don't get attached to your family, don't get attached to your body. In the same way, don't get attached to just one individual, that is the only savior. Understand that individual is also a temporary being, that you have to attach yourself to that which is ultimate, that universal divine force, that universal timeless wisdom, which is how I define the word guru. The timeless wisdom is the guru. Now, if that wisdom is coming through one individual, that's good. Sometimes you will learn a lot from that individual, and then other times you'll say, actually, I feel like I want to now explore this on my own. That doesn't mean you've abandoned the guru. The guru is always with you. That wisdom is always with you. Whichever method it comes out is great.
So let me ask you a personal question. Being a Sikh, you obviously have got the blessings of the 10 Gurus Parampara, the teachings of the Guru Granth Sahib and things like that. And you also follow the Guru Granth Sahib as probably like the essential teaching. Did you ever have a life master, one life guru in your life, or you never had one person as a life guru in your life?
I would say that I've had many people as mentors in my life who have helped me to understand it.
But not one guru.
Within the Sikh tradition, we actually look at the Granth, the wisdom, as guru.
Okay,
so
beautiful.
Guru Granth Sahib, the way the tradition is set up, that as I mentioned before, Guru Nanak Dev Ji was the first in the line of 10 gurus. When Guru Gobind Singh Ji, when it was his time, when he realized that his time on earth was coming up, the Sikhs actually asked him, Guruji, who is going to be our next guru? And he says, all of this wisdom is now contained within this one Granth.
Beautiful.
And that wisdom itself becomes your Guru. Guru
Let
Granth
me
Sahib is the Guru. And it doesn't even just contain the teachings of the 10 Gurus. There's teachings of some of the greatest spiritual masters within Indian various traditions. Bhagat Kabir Ji's wisdom is within there. Bhagat Namdev Ji's wisdom is there. Bhagat Ramanand Ji, Sheikh Farid Ji's wisdom is in there. So the wisdom is not contained within a person. The wisdom is beyond all people. So I actually say that, of course, I have a guru in my life. The wisdom of Guru Granth Sahib Ji is my guru.
But let me provoke you further. So now,
Please.
for example, when there are some people who are talking of the Bhagavad Gita, or there are some people who are trying to talk of the Bible, we find so many different interpretations and translations and expressions from different religious leaders. So do you find this problem with the Guru Granth Sahib, that people can misunderstand a shloka or this, or is it absolutely clear?
Of course, the wisdom is profound. The wisdom is perfect. But when we read it, we're reading it through the lens of our own mind, our own ego, and our own understandings. So obviously there is room for us to make mistakes.
Okay.
We can make a mistake in our interpretation. It doesn't mean that the wisdom is wrong.
Yeah.
There is a beautiful teaching that says, Ved katev kaho mat chuthe, chutha jo na bichare. Don't call the various spiritual scripts wrong. Don't call these scriptures wrong. The person who doesn't contemplate on their meaning is wrong. The person who really doesn't know how to understand them. And this is where it really helps to have other people around you who have understood this wisdom better than you. One of the things I say that, if you wanted to start a new business, they always say, go and find a business mentor. Somebody who's already started a business before you. If you want to learn a new instrument, go and find a mentor or a teacher. Yeah. If you want to take up a new sport, go and find somebody who's going to coach you. So you do need somebody who's going to be able to show you in the right direction, that says you're reading this wrong, or you might want to interpret this way or that way, to show you a different lens of looking at things. So this is where it is really important to have the company of other enlightened people around you, people who know a little bit more than you, that can help you with your misunderstandings.
And that's why it's important, though you started with the humility that you don't call yourself a guru, when there are many people who consider you to be a guru, may not be the guru as in the 10 gurus that have come there, but when they say you're a guru, at least you interpret the Guru Granth Sahib in the right manner, and therefore, I am very clear, you become their guru. But let's move on. I want to share with you one small hitch we had in our conversation and take your thoughts on it. When I started writing, I wrote a small quote. I said, I started with nothing. I became something. I achieved everything, only to realize I am nothing. So finally, I realized, people are very confused how, when you just said, because people are going to listen to our conversation, and if you say you should not even seek enlightenment, because the I comes into picture. So what is the submission I make to them is that we start off with a false ego. We start off with the ego that says, I want to be enlightened. I know, I have learned, I am a... But then the false ego becomes the enlightened ego. When the enlightened ego is referring to this existence, you can't, even an enlightened man needs to say, give me a glass of water. Because you have to identify yourself. You can't say give Satpal a glass of water. No, you have to say give me a glass of water. Though you are awakened. So to help people, I guide them to move from the false ego, I am, to the enlightened ego, I am not. I don't know if you must be familiar with Hindi, right? Hindi is okay with you.
Sure.
So I write a little of lyrics on Hindi and I tell people, मैं क्या हूँ कुछ भी नहीं, सब कुछ तुम ही हो प्रभु, तुम बिन मैं क्या कुछ भी ना, लहर एक हूँ मैं प्रभु, आता मैं जाता प्रभु, तू है समुंदर सारा, तुझ में समाता प्रभु, तुझी से मैं आता कुछ भी ना. So if people are working towards that state of being the enlightened ego, realizing we are nothing, you still have a problem with that, or what is your view on that?
I don't have a problem with any of that. It's such a beautiful phrase, beautiful verse that you sung there. I think for me, there is stages that we go through. You're absolutely right. You start in absolute ignorance, not knowing what this oneness is, not knowing what the divine is, not knowing yourself. And through that understanding, you begin to realize, as you so beautifully put in that verse, that I'm just a wave and you are the ultimate ocean. Absolutely. And so once you begin to realize your relationship with that life force, then you can realize that you are a temporary version of this ultimate thing. The wave just comes up for a few seconds and then it's gone again. That's like our entire life. And you can either be a wave in ignorance and have no understanding of the ocean, or you can have an awareness that I'm actually part of a much bigger thing called life, much bigger thing called oneness, God. The wave begins to realize that it is the ocean. And in the end, whether you're realized or whether you're not realized, the wave has to go back into the ocean itself.
Whether you accept it or not. Just because a blind man says that there is no Taj Mahal, it does not really mean there is no Taj Mahal. So we have to accept that. So how do you view so many religions in this world, and the problem between many religions pushing their followers to only follow their religion? I don't know in Sikhism how it is, but I believe that in my books, I happen to write several books. So in my learning, religion is a kindergarten. You need to go beyond whatever religion you have to a university called spirituality. But probably Sikhism, you may say, is just like a university. It's not a religion. But how much do you feel Sikhism being a religion, and how several religions are stopping us from God realization? Because if you start to believe, my God is Krishna, my God is Rama, my God is Shiva, if you start giving names to gods, then I have parents who are 84 years old, and to them, I have built a very big, huge statue of Lord Shiva in Bangalore when I was a Shiv Bhakt from 8 to 48. And it's my parents are very, very devout followers of Shiva. And the challenge for me, how will you realize that God is that omnipresent, omnipotent power if you limit yourself to the God of a religion? So let me hand over to you.
That's a question that you've asked, which is an age-old question. And it has been a problem with humankind for, if not centuries, then thousands of years, that everyone has misinterpreted what the master was trying to teach. I genuinely believe that the spiritual masters of all traditions came to give a similar message, whether it was Buddha, whether it was Christ, whether it was Guru Nanak. But what happens is, over time, people naturally create these little tribes, and they want to somehow feel special because they belong to that tribe. And the way that they do that is they alienate and they put down all the other tribes. And yet that was not what the master was trying to teach. From my understanding of studying Sikhism, as you call it, or the tradition, is Guru Nanak Dev Ji made a very serious attempt to try and overcome this problem. And he genuinely tries to create a tradition that is almost a tradition that is for all of mankind. And the way that he does that is he doesn't limit you to become a follower of one group. Guru Nanak Dev Ji famously traveled around the world not trying to convert people to follow him, but trying to get people to focus their attention back on the divine. And so whether Guru Nanak Dev Ji went to Tibet and he was trying to have conversations with the Buddhists, he wasn't trying to convert them into Sikhism. He was trying to teach them the ultimate wisdom that the Lord Buddha was teaching. When he goes to Jagannath Puri, he's trying to teach them the divine wisdom there. When he goes to Mecca, he's trying to teach them the divine wisdom there. So he is trying to make a Hindu, if you identify with yourself as a Hindu, he's trying to make you the best Hindu you can be. If you're a Muslim, he's trying to make you the best Muslim you can be. And ultimately, that is to rise above some of these limitations that we put on ourselves, rise above some of these little small ego-based groups that we create and saying, this is not who you really are. Ultimately, you're part of something which is a universal ocean, an ocean that is for everyone. The one divine wisdom teaches us that it is just oneness everywhere. The same sun is shining in France, the same sun is shining in Sri Lanka, the same sun is shining in China or Australia. It is one sun, but many different people of different nationalities are enjoying the benefits of that sun. So if you recognize and put your attention higher above than these little small groups that you're a part of, if you constantly raise your attention to look at that ultimate oneness, look up, look at that oneness, then you will see that actually we're all the same. And this is what Guru Nanak Dev Ji made a very serious attempt by even including the teachings of other masters in the Granth and saying, look, this is truly a wisdom for all mankind. It really doesn't make a difference which path you take to climb to the summit. If you think about a mountain, we're all taking different paths, but we reach the top at the same summit. So that is really what spirituality has to do. And if any religion teaches you to look down on other religions, then it is not a religion. It is not a truth. It is not real spirituality. I like to say that religion binds you down and spirituality sets you free.
Absolutely. Beautiful. So beautiful. That's why, like in a game of pole vault, when you're running with the rod to jump over the pole vault, religion is like that pole. But if you don't drop it, then you can't jump over. I have been also following the teachings of Guru Nanak, and I always thought that it's so profound because he talks of oneness and things like that. But I don't know whether you will take it personally, then how Sikhism has become another religion. Or for example, the Buddha said, don't have idol worship. Somewhere he spoke that there should be no idol worship. When I went to a Buddhist temple in Singapore, I found in every room of the temple 108 idols of every bodhisattva. So it's mind-boggling. I mean, the master teaches something, but it's like that man teaching the child, where is the moon? And the mind is looking up and pointing to the moon. And the child draws in the class tomorrow the finger as a picture of the moon. The teacher asks, what's the moon? The child draws the finger as the moon, when the finger was just pointing towards the moon. So why has then Sikhism, which could have become pure spirituality because of the Guru Nanak's teaching and the Guru's teaching, how has it become a religion? I don't want to dwell too much on it, but just a quick comment on that.
I think it's natural over hundreds of years that communities who have a similar interest are all aligned with one way of thinking. Eventually they begin to organize themselves. And so this is something that happens over time, is that when you all have a communal way of looking at life, eventually you start to create systems, processes, a common language, a common dress. Because ultimately what I find with all human beings is humans are very tribal animals. If you look in nature, there are some animals that are solitary animals, like a polar bear, for example. It never lives in a community. Every polar bear goes and just hunts by itself, sleeps by itself, lives its day out by itself. Even when they mate, they go their separate ways afterwards.
Wow.
So there are certain animals that are very solitary animals. But there are other animals that like to live in groups. I like to think that the human, just from our evolution, has evolved to be a very social animal. So it's very natural for us to always try and create communities. And once you create communities, then you create systems. But underlying that, the Sikh philosophy has constantly tried to remind us that yes, you might be a group of people, but you must never discriminate against anyone. In fact, how can you discriminate against anyone when your own teaching is telling you that everything is being done by God? God has created the Sikhs. God has created the Hindus. God has created the Muslims. God has created the Christians. And in fact, it is God who is infused in all of these different people, in all of these different cultures. So I think it's very natural over the time that communities create some sort of grouping together.
So you've said it so beautifully. I think you've said one of the most beautiful thing, because even the Bible tells you, Luke 17, that the kingdom of God is within you. In Corinthians 4:16, the Bible tells you that God lives in the temple of your heart. Now, obviously, the leaders who were in reality spiritual leaders have become religious gods because the followers have done this. And I think that if we are not careful, isms will be created, and these isms take us away from God. When the moment you start creating these groups, then what are we doing by creating these groups? We are creating duality. The simple thing that you teach a small child is taught. Somebody asks them, Mama, Papa, where is God? God, Bhagwan udhar hai. Bhagwan asman mein hai. So, so in the poetry, I tell people, I say, इंसान मैं नहीं सच में भगवान हूँ, दिखता जो मैं वो नहीं आत्मा में हूँ, अनुभूति हो गई एहसास हो गया, नेति नेति तत्वम असि. The challenge, Satpal, is not to think of ourselves being the Atma, but seeing everybody being the Atma. Because if, like the Guru's wisdom, the wisdom teaches us, if we see every individual as Atma, then we see them as Paramatma. We can see God in all, we can serve God in all, we can love God in all. Otherwise, if you want to love God, for example, you love your beloved. You have your wife, you have your girlfriend, whomever you have, you love your beloved. But that love is only from skin to skin. That love is never... But when somebody asks me, what is love? Talking from a spiritual angle, I tell them LOVE is longing of the soul, which is very passionate and creates an ecstasy of joy. So LOVE to me is very spiritual. And somebody asked me a few days back, what is true love? I said, true love is transcendental. It is not this worldly love. It is a rainbow. It's a rainbow of 7 colors. We love our parents, we love our friends. There's intellectual love, there's emotional love. But this world only knows red love. Red is only one color of the rainbow. It is physical, erotic love. But unfortunately, the world is lost. And therefore, people like you, when you speak about these things, simple things like happiness, love, all these are our essential nature. We can be happy, we can love, but why is it so rare in the world? Why is true love missing? Why is a simple thing? Why are people unhappy? I mean, I don't know whether you would like to comment on this, but don't you find so many people are unhappy? What is the cause of unhappiness in your view?
You know, it's so interesting that certainly within the Indian spiritual traditions, there has been such a big focus on dukh, on suffering. Because if you'll notice, our day begins and ends with suffering. I like to think that when you wake up in the morning, you don't wake up happy. You start immediately thinking about all the jobs that you have to do, all the things that haven't been done yet. And so you wake up immediately in this mini trauma, and then you just get out of bed and you start doing all the things that you need to do. And so what you realize is this is a very natural tendency of the mind. The human is a very unique animal that it actually has so many thoughts. It has the ability to plan ahead. It has the ability to think about the future. And in doing so, it starts worrying about all of these things that haven't been done yet, that things that haven't been achieved yet. And the human actually has the ability to think about all the problems that have come before. The past is also something that the human mind is just able to think about. So what do? You notice that you can't even sit down for 5 minutes without your mind either going in the future and thinking about new problems, new things that haven't been achieved, or it starts thinking about all the things that have already happened to you. So your mind constantly going to past and future is what I have understood to be the problems that you've created within your mind. And
Absolutely.
the spiritual masters are teaching you that your past is always going to be there. The future, there's always going to be new problems for you to worry about. But if you, for a moment, bring your attention to what is actually true right now, that's where you begin to find that mental stability. That's where you find that peace, that right now, I'm okay. And if you can just allow yourself a moment to not go down this habit that the mind has created, because it's a habit. It's something that's happening unconsciously. You don't actually know that you're doing it. You're not even aware that your mind is just gone in 10 different directions. And so if you can learn to just catch your mind from going somewhere and bring it back here, which is what meditation is all about, bring your mind back, then all of a sudden you realize that I don't need to create love. I don't need to create bliss. My under all of my problems is love. There is love and bliss that's already here. I just need to allow myself or train my mind to come back into that love and bliss that's already within my heart.
So beautiful, but it's very amusing. I'm going to amuse you a little bit now. I tell people,
Sure.
Is it even possible for you to go to a yesterday that is gone or a tomorrow not yet born? I'll give you $1 million. I'll give you what you want. You just go back to yesterday and put an extra slice of cheese in the sandwich we had yesterday. I'll give you $1 million. No, I can't do it. Okay, go to tomorrow and prepare this for me tomorrow, so I will come into that tomorrow. So Satpal, the very funny thing, in reality, nobody can go to yesterday and nobody can go to tomorrow. Nobody can go even 1 minute. If you and me have been speaking for 30 minutes, if we want to change what we have spoken in the last 30 minutes, it's impossible. But then, who is this rascal? Who is this rascal that's going to yesterday and tomorrow, creating misery and sorrow? It is the mind. And when in the interesting conversations, after I woke up to the truth 10 years back, I shut down my business. I just do this because I love to do. I write songs, I write books, I give talks, just like you. I mean, my life is, we both have similar lives. So I tell people, okay, I ask them, so who is going to the past and the future? They say, instantly the answer, the mind. I say, yes, the mind creates fear, worry, stress, anxiety, regret, shame, and guilt. I at least list 7 miseries the mind creates. So I tell them, okay, so let me give you a price. You know how the brain looks. You've seen a picture of the brain. And you know the color of the heart. You've seen scans and MRIs and the kidneys. I tell them, pause for a moment and draw for me. I give them a sheet of paper. Draw the mind. How does the mind look? What is the shape of the mind? What is the color of and they get perplexed. They get perplexed because there is no mind. They've never seen the mind. The mind appears to exist. But if you want to capture the mind, like you said beautifully, if you meditate, if you go into the state of silence, then there is no mind. The moment you still the mind, you kill the mind. The mind doesn't exist. But the next moment when you get out of your meditation, like you said, you wake up in the morning, it bangs you. So, does the Guru Granth Sahib, or do you talk a lot about this mind and the tech? What is your view? Because in reality, in in our beliefs, we call it Sat Chit Anand. I don't know whether you're familiar with the term. So, if there's man, the man creates man, mithya, dukkha. The mind creates mithya, the illusion, and dukkha. But from man, if you go from man to chitta, you go from mind to consciousness, then dukkha becomes sukha. The Satya Chitta creates Ananda. So this is something I would like to ask you. Do you think if we are able to still the mind and move to that state of consciousness, that state, people call it different names, samadhi, whatever you call, I don't know what you refer to, you just meditation. Can we easily overcome misery? And can we build that yoga, that union with that ultimate, nameless, formless, and be in a state of eternal bliss, eternal love? What is your view?
It's interesting that the Guru Granth Sahib spends a lot of time talking about the mind, about dukh and sukh, and what are the processes that get the mind away from dukh into a state of sukh, into a state of bliss. I heard something very interesting that said, trying to silence your mind is like trying to silence your heartbeat. What you'll notice is that you can silence your mind for a minute, 5 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes in your meditation. Yeah. But the reality is that you're going to live in this mind. It is there with you 24 hours a day. So rather than trying to silence the mind, Guru Nanak gives you a different technique. One thing I say is that the mind is always meditating. 24 hours a day, the mind is meditating. But what you're meditating on is me, myself, my problems, my issues, my responsibilities. That's what the mind is doing all day. So I think Guru Nanak Dev Ji recognizes that the mind is constantly babbling and talking. So the Guru says, if your mind is going to do that all day, let me give you a phrase that takes you away from your ego and into oneness understanding. Because if your mind is constantly waking up and saying, I need to do this, I need to do that, what about this? I can't believe he said that to me. This person owes me money. I'm already late. I have to hand my assignment in. That's what the mind is doing all the time. Guru Nanak says, I understand that your mind is doing that. I understand your mind is never going to be silenced. Just take that word me, and replace it with tu hi. And so he gives you a new word, a phrase, whatever word that works for you, that takes your attention away from me and my problems and brings your attention that everything is you. Everything is oneness. Even this body right now, there may be problems that I want to solve this body is yours. Even this moment right now, there may be things that need to happen. I surrender this moment to you. My children, they're not my children, they're your children. My circumstances are not my circumstances, they're your circumstances. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji creates a new mind, a refined mind, a mind that isn't constantly saying the mantra of ego all the time, but he's saying the mantra of the divine. So Guru says Naam is your key to go about your daily life, but actually have an enlightened, refined mind. So you can go about your day-to-day job. You can do all your things, all your duties, all your responsibilities. You don't have to abandon your life. You don't have to go and live in the mountains in the Himalayas. You don't have to go and live in a cave and reject the world. Be in the world, but recognize the world as a way of interacting with God. So now, as you go about your day-to-day, where you used to look at everything as a problem, now you're seeing everything as God. Every customer that comes into your shop is God. Every product that you're selling is God. Every conversation that you're having is God talking to God. So this is where this refined mind, the technique of Guru Nanak Dev Ji is not to actually sit in silent meditation. He said, how long can you do that for? 24 hours a day, tu hi, tera, Ram, Allah, Allah. Whatever mantra works for you, whatever allows you to recognize that everything is God. So stop creating a resistance with life. Life is going to do what life is going to do. Yes, there are problems in life, but there are problems that the mind is constantly creating. You can view life as a problem, or you can view life as a divine play, God's drama. I like to think about it that If you start a movie, you're not already worried about what's going to happen to the characters. When you go to the movie theater, when you watch it at home on the TV, you're excited to see what is the characters going to go through in this movie. In the same way, I want you to start your day like that. I want you to start your day and wake up and saying, God, I'm interested to know how the movie plays out today. So you create this separation between life as something that's happening to you. Now it is just something that is there entertaining you. Whatever life is going to do, that includes all the big things that are going to happen, all the small things that are going to happen. You go to make a cup of tea and you run out of tea bags. You can create a problem out of that, or you can laugh about it. You know, even the smallest things our mind can create problems with. So when you start to change how you look at life as not another thing for you to worry about, but simply a new chapter, a new page in the book, a new twist in the story, then you can start to relax into life and you say, God, thank you for entertaining me. Let me see what is going to happen next in the story.
So very beautiful. I like to put that as the words I tell people. There is trauma because you don't realize that life is a drama and everything is unfolding as per karma. I don't know whether you do a lot of talk of karma or you don't. Do you talk a lot of karma or not?
I do, of course.
Okay, so karma is an active part of the Sikh philosophy?
Absolutely. The word karma is very interestingly and how it's used within the Sikh philosophy. The word karma is to talk about the repercussions of your actions. But the word karam is also used as God's grace. So interestingly, Guru Nanak Dev Ji combines your actions as God's grace. And what Guruji is doing, again, going back to that oneness, not creating a duality, because what Guru is trying to teach us is your actions are God's actions. Your karma and your consequences are God's consequences. Again, this is this very refined way of not making life about you. Guru Nanak's reason for talking in the Mool Mantra, starting with oneness, ek Onkar, is saying life is not about you. That is the ultimate way to destroy the ego. Guru Nanak is constantly trying to remind you, this is not about you. Even your karma is God's karma. The very words that are coming out of my mouth are not planned. It is everything that life has done to me that has created the next sentence that's going to come out of my mouth. And when those words come out of my mouth, what repercussions will happen is also just another chapter in the story of life. So you take the focus away from you.
Okay, sorry. I was so attracted by what you were saying. So what is the free will that God has given us? Has God given Satpal, while of course that there is no doubt that we are nothing, every cell of our existence is God's energy, but has not God in this drama called life, in this Leela as we call it, in this Maya, has God not given us, although we are particles of God, we are the wave, He is the ocean, has He not in this divine drama, this play, given us a free will for us to choose?
I love the phrase free will. And I'd like to break down a little bit so that we can really understand what this word means. What we're saying with free will is I am free from God to make some decisions in my life. So the way I like to explain it to people is we like to think that God controls all the big things in my life. Like God controls when I'm born, when I die, who I get married to, how many children we're going to have. God controls the big things in my life, but I've got free will. I am free from God to make the small decisions in my life. So if I wake up in the morning, if I want to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, that's my free will. I am free from God. As soon as you think that you're free from God, you've created duality again. Okay. And so if, again, you have to understand the concept of oneness very deeply. You can never be free from God, just like the wave can never be free from the ocean. The wave has no ability to go in a different direction to the way the rest of the ocean wants to go. And so once you begin to understand that, it completely eliminates this idea of free will. The only thing that wants free will is our ego. Our ego wants free will. It wants to hold on to the idea that I have a little bit of self-control. When you totally destroy the ego, you realize that nothing is my free will. So let me help people understand this, because I know this is a very difficult concept for people to understand. One thing that people understand is that all of my actions come from my thoughts. So before I go to pick up a glass, I first have a thought that says I need to pick up this glass. So people think, okay, of my own free will, I've created this thought, I need to pick up this glass. And so then the action follows. And one of the questions, the most powerful question I've found, is if you believe that of your free will, you've created your thoughts, tell me what your next thought is going to be. And I've found this to be the most profound question to ask people. What is your next thought? If you are the creator of your thoughts, and hence you're the creator of your actions from those thoughts, tell me what your next thought is going to be. And I've done experiments in these various lectures and seminars that I've delivered. I go to the audience. Can one person tell me what next thought they're going to create? And when people stop and they watch, they realize they don't know. They don't know because they don't create their thoughts.
Correct.
They simply wait and a thought appears.
Yep.
And so even if you are to make a small decision, if I ask you, do you want coffee or tea? If you really analyze your mind, you will have to actually realize that I can't make this decision. I have to wait for the thought to come. And when the thought comes, then I'll say coffee or tea. That is how you realize that you have no free will, that it is in fact the life force that is allowing everything to happen through you.
That forces me to the next question, since you push me. Therefore then, if there's so much automated or so much complete control from that universal power, then what is this concept of punarjanam, rebirth, liberation and unification, mukti, moksha? Do you talk of this aspect as well?
It is interesting that when you study various Indian philosophies, they all have different ideas of what's going to happen to you after life. Yep. Even within Indian philosophy, some are talking about reincarnation, some are talking about heaven and hell, some say nothing happens to you. Guru Nanak Dev Ji was not trying to create another philosophy to add to all the philosophies that were out there. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji talks to you based on whatever your belief system is. Whatever you believe, Guru Nanak Dev Ji says to you, if you're worried about reincarnation, I have a technique that eliminates reincarnation. If you're worried about going to hell and you prefer to go to heaven, I have a system that brings heaven now and gets rid of hell now. So Guru Nanak is not trying to create another philosophy. Okay. Guru Nanak is trying to say right here, right now, how do you make heaven on earth now? How do you eliminate all desire for anything more, that you don't even worry about what's going to happen? If you totally surrender to God, if you really surrender, then you will ultimately have to conclude, God, whatever you want to do with me, you can do with me. Do that while I'm alive, and when I die, I have no ability to understand your entire system. You're so vast, I'm so small. How can I understand what is going to happen to me after my death? How can I understand where I came from before I was born? I'm too small to understand something so grand. So God, I leave it up to you. I'm not responsible for why I'm here. You created me. You allowed me to be here. And God, wherever you want to take me tomorrow, you can take me there. So again, it's about totally removing any shred of self-importance. Again, the ego comes back and says, but I want to go to heaven. But I want to get free from reincarnation. I want to become mukt. And it's back to that ego again, that I want something. Guru Nanak's technique is totally, every time you try to say something, Guru Nanak will wipe the ego again and say, no, you've mistaken yourself again.
Okay. So just for my understanding, therefore, in the Guru Granth Sahib, there's no specific life and afterlife. It doesn't talk of a specific thing, is what you say.
It mentions all the different theories.
Correct. Okay.
It mentions all the different theories, but it says the focus of your life is here and now. Connect with God now, and whatever will happen, whatever you think is going to happen afterwards, that's, you don't need to worry about that.
Beautiful. So before the time runs out, you and me can talk for hours, you know that. But before time runs out, let me ask you to help people understand in your own way. If somebody wants to understand who is God, where is God, what is God, how would you explain this to them?
I would have to go back to how Guru Nanak Dev Ji asks and answers this question. we talked about the Mool Mantra. Within the Guru Granth Sahib, the Mool Mantra is the first verse, the very first thing that appears in the Guru Granth Sahib. And immediately after that, there's a question that comes up. And the question says, Kiv sachiara hoye, kiv kure tutte pa. How do I find the ultimate truth and how do I destroy all falsehood? And Guru Nanak Dev Ji's solution to that is very unique. He says, Hukam razai chalana. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, if you want to find the ultimate truth, align yourself with the divine command. Now that might sound a little bit cryptic, so let me break that down a little bit. He says, everything that is happening in this moment, everything that has happened in the past and everything that will happen is the command of God. God is commanding everything, the seasons, whether it's going to be sunny or whether it's going to rain today, whether it's going to be hot or whether it's going to be cold. Every single thing is God's command. And so if you want to find the ultimate truth, see if you can be okay with whatever God wants to do. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji's technique of enlightenment is actually aligning yourself with reality. Are you okay with whatever is happening in this moment? Can you create a mind that is so at peace with life that whatever life wants to do, you recognize it as as the hand of God? God is doing every single thing right now. So no matter what happens next, you recognize that it's something that divine God is doing. And so if you want to know life, Guru Nanak is saying, know this moment. What is true right now? Are you okay with life right now? Forget about God and forget about these big things. Can you be okay with life at this moment? That if the bulb goes, your mind doesn't automatically start getting frustrated. Why is the light gone? Why is this happening? Why is the technology not working around me? Can you be okay with every moment of life? Once you start to become okay with every moment of life, you will be connected to God. Because God is in this very moment. God is in you and God is in every single person that's around you. And so if you want to know what God is, simply learn to recognize everything as God. This moment is God, all the things that are happening in God, all the things that have happened as God. And so you will create such a sense of stillness and peace within you because there is no desire for you to dictate what is going to happen next. You say, who am I to say what will happen next? God, I leave it all to you. It's total surrender. Surrender of your mind, surrender of your ideas that you think you know what life should be like. If you surrender the idea that you want to dictate what life is going to be like, and you simply allow yourself to become a witness of life, and you surrender to whatever life wants to do, Guru Nanak says that is how you will know God. Because God is happening right now. You don't have to go anywhere. God is right in front of you. God is happening in this moment. But you're too busy trying to find God somewhere else, and you're missing the fact that God is happening right now.
And did he teach any method for people to find God everywhere, experience God everywhere, realize God everywhere? Did he teach, was it a simple method or was it complicated?
And his simple method was this understanding that we just talked about, give it a name. Naam. He says Naam. If you can make your mind constantly remember the name of God, which is any name.
Yeah.
For me, you mentioned Sat Chit Anand. That is such a beautiful wisdom that I've actually begun to use that as a mantra for me. So at any moment in my life, Sat Chit Anand, constant conscious contentment. And that brings me back to this understanding. If your mind is going to get frustrated, bring any word that allows you to remember this universal flow of life. And so going back to the analogy, we talked about the wave and the ocean. Any word that makes the wave remember the ocean will work. So that's Guru Nanak's technique. Use a name and keep repeating that name. Because if you don't, then your mind will start repeating your own mantra. Your mind will start repeating the mantra of your ego. So to overcome that of me, myself, I'm important, I know what's going to happen next, I want to do this, I want to do that. Just make it every moment is God and make your mind constantly repeat the name of God as you're going about your day-to-day work. It's not something that you have to sit down and do. As you're walking as you're breathing, with every breath, say God's name. And that you may begin to recognize this is God, this is God, this is God. That is Guru Nanak's technique.
Very beautiful. So there is no realization of God. For example, when we sing, we say, Prabhu Pana, yahi maksad hai, marne se pehle, Prabhu ko pana hai, sab kuch mila agar, Prabhu na mila to, samsar mila fir bhi, kuch na hum paate. So in Guru Nanak's words, is there Prabhu Pana, self-realization or God-realization, which people talk in terms of nirvana, moksha, salvation. So is there a term and is there something like that? Though you already clarified, I thought there's nothing you said, but I'm once again wanting to be sure, there's nothing like that in Guru Granth Sahib.
There absolutely is. The only difference is you're not going to find God after you die. If you don't find God now in this moment, you won't find God when you die.
Beautiful.
So to attain God is to attain God in this moment.
What is that called? Is it a term?
We can call it any name that we want, but Guru Nanak calls it hukum, accepting the will of God. Okay. Accepting the will of God in this moment is, in fact, he goes as far as saying, accepting the will of God is the name of God.
And that is God realization.
That is God realization, that God is everything. God is oneness, God is you, God is me, God is this moment, God is everything. What more God realization do we want? What more are we looking for? If we see God in every moment and in everything, then is there some other realization that's beyond that?
No, beautiful. What you say is very profound. So I'm trying to understand it in both our terms so the audience can understand it clearly. So two things. I'm just separating this into two things. One, I call it acceptance. Why acceptance? Whatever has happened up to this moment, I accept it as your divine will, your hukum, your, what we say, kabul, whatever you have, that is one word. And living in this moment. And then the second aspect is surrender. Surrender to whatever will be. The famous song, Kesara, Sara, whatever will be, will be. So I surrender to the divine will because the divine is in control. And the divine is everywhere. The divine is everything. So there is only the divine, and this whole Leela, this drama is the divine. What has happened is the divine will. What is going to happen is the divine will. What is happening in this moment is the divine will. And being in this divine consciousness of the divine presence everywhere is life. Have I captured it the way you would like to say? Or you want to correct me?
You beautifully articulated the idea of oneness and hukum. And as soon as you remember that, you're in God's name. You're remembering God's name. Even if you can't put a word to it, you're in God consciousness.
No, it's so beautiful. You know, Satpal, if people can live the way we have spoken, just imagine living without any cares, without any fears, without any worries. Just living in that state of what we call Satchit Anand. Complete surrender. We are all worried. We are worried about kal kya hoga, aisa hua, this happened, that will happen. What if this happens? What if this does not happen? Yeah, I think it's very beautiful. I remember one of my quotes. I tell people, get this into your head that you cannot be enlightened after you are dead. So obviously, if you have to awaken, if you have to wake up to the reality, also this, ye mera hai, this is my son, that is your son, this is my business, that is your business. This is creating the problems in the world. When the simple truth is, nobody can deny that we brought nothing with us and we will take nothing with us. I mean, this is no great, what are you talking about? Everybody knows it, yeah? But if only we lived it, if only we lived that we are coming into God's existence, God's Leela, God's divine drama, enjoying this beautiful gift of life, and then going back into whom we are all none other than that supreme power. Let me ask you to close with whatever words you want. What are any questions you have to ask me? Anything you'd like to tell our audience? Over to you.
I just want to follow up on what you've said. If only everyone could live like that. One of the things why I know I'm not a teacher, going back to the beginning of how we started this conversation, why I know I'm not a guru, is I've stopped worrying about if only people could live like this. I'm actually worrying if only I could live like this. And what I love about doing the work that I do is that actually the biggest student of everything that I'm saying is me. I'm actually speaking to myself more than I'm speaking to anyone else, because I know every day I myself struggle with actually living up to the standards that this wisdom is trying to teach us. So my mind comes back in, the ego comes back in, the worries come back in every day. So for me, I always say that I'm also another student of this wisdom, which is what the word Sikh really means. We're all students of this higher wisdom, and we can all learn something, and we can share this with each other. And we're living in such difficult times right now where there's so many difficult things that we're viewing happening around the world. And if we can just focus on ourselves, bring ourselves into a state of peace, into a space where we can feel that universal love for everyone else, you can't change the whole world, but change begins with yourself. So if you want to know world peace, it starts with inner peace. Once we know that inner peace, one by one, we can begin to start creating a world that is more blissful and more peaceful as well.
Very, very beautiful. I think you've said it very beautifully. No doubt we are all students. There is no, in school they taught us a lie. They taught us a lie that practice makes a man perfect. But nobody is perfect. This is a lie we have been taught in school. And we remain a fool sometimes because of what we were taught in school. The only one perfect is that one, that who has empowered us to breathe from the first moment to the last moment. But I must say that a person like you, who has awakened to many truths of life, and your humility wants to say that you're not a teacher, but you will deprive so many people if you deny yourself to be. We are not superior, Satpal. I am not saying that we are any superior to anybody. But if we are to live as a divine instrument, if the divine has chosen any of us to be able to make it simpler for those who find it difficult to understand, with all humility, I think, without any ego or pride, because we know we are nothing. It's ignorance to believe that we are superior. I'd like to close. Since we spoke so much on ego, I'd like to close with a small poetry, with your permission. It says, कहानी दो पुतलों की एक हाथी एक घोड़ा, कहानी दो पुतलों की एक हाथी एक घोड़ा, मिट्टी के दोनों बने पर लड़ाई कौन बड़ा. A story of a 6-inch elephant and a 12-inch horse, both made of mud. मिट्टी के दोनों बने पर लड़ाई कौन बड़ा, हाथी कहे मैं बड़ा, घोड़ा कहे मैं बड़ा, हाथी कहे मैं बड़ा, घोड़ा कहे मैं बड़ा, पानी में डाला मिट्टी है दोनों, फर्क नहीं थोड़ा.
Beautiful.
So we are all that mitti, that mitti. And when we realize that, when we realize that what are we in reality? Sometimes we think we are that mitti. But sometimes I tell people, what you said, Guru Kripa, and that Naam, I tell people, tum bin mitti, mitti bhi na, tum bin to mitti bhi kahan, tum bin to mitti koi na, मैं तो प्रभु कुछ भी नहीं, सब कुछ तुम ही, ओ मैं तो प्रभु कुछ भी नहीं. So this is very important. In all, I don't believe I am teaching, but I believe that is an instrument, Satpal, you and me. You're doing it, and you're doing a fantastic. I salute you. I salute you and fold my hands. But when we tell people, in this poetry, it's coming to my mind, I just want to close with this. It says, ये तन तो 5 तत्वों से है बना, मन को ढूंढा तो मैंने कहीं भी ये ना, आत्मा जब निकल जाती वो है तू ही, रहती है क्या प्रभु बस ये मिट्टी, तुम बिन मिट्टी मिट्टी भी ना. God is in those 5 elements, what we talk of earth, fire. The science, the 2022 Nobel Prize went to those 3 scientists of quantum physics who discovered that every particle of matter is energy. They call it dark matter, dark energy. But Satpal, you know it very well. Whether it's dark matter or dark energy, sab tu hi, sab tu hi, sab tu hi and sab tu hi. Thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure, a privilege, an honor to talk to you. You have spread your bliss and your anand, your love to me and to everybody who is going to enjoy this conversation. Pranams and folded hands. I am grateful to you for giving us this time and hope to meet you sometime to stay connected in any possible way.
Thank you so much. Keep spreading your light. Keep spreading the joy. Thank you for all the work that you do as well.
Thank you. Thank you for patiently listening to the video. And if you have questions, if you want to contact me, just WhatsApp me on 98451 55555. WhatsApp India 919845155555. But if you want to get answers to your questions, then come on Zoom, and the Zoom ID is on your screen. Every day at 8, you will find answers to all the difficult questions of life. See you there.